The blackness of space stretched endlessly before Captain Lena Cho Madison as she stood on the observation deck of the Earth survey vessel, Pioneer. Stars glittered like cold diamonds against the void, and somewhere among them lay their destination, Arixa Prime, the most lethal death world in the known galaxy. "Captain, we're approaching jump point," announced the ship's AI through the comm system. "Estimated arrival at Arixa Prime in 48 hours. Lena nodded, though no one was there to see it. At 42, she had commanded exploration vessels for over 15 years, but this mission felt different. Arixa Prime wasn't just another hostile planet. It was the home of the Quran, a species that had evolved in conditions so brutal that even hardened galactic explorers avoided their world. "Display mission parameters," she ordered, and a holographic screen materialized before her. The text scrolled before her eyes. Earth Science Division Xenobiological Survey, Mission 2275 AX3. Primary objective collection of ecological data from Arixa Prime for comparative analysis with Earth's historical extinction events. Secondary objective assessment of Quran biological adaptations for potential medical applications. 200 years had passed since humanity had joined the Galactic Coalition, and still, Earth remained classified as a frontier civilization, tolerated but rarely respected. The Coalition species comfortable on their temperate worlds regarded humans with a mixture of fascination and disdain. Humans came from a world with conditions harsh enough to be classified as a mild death world, which made them oddities among the predominantly gentle homeworlds of the Coalition. But Arixa Prime was different. It made Earth look like a paradise garden. "Captain," came another voice, and Lena turned to see Dr. Malik Reyes entering the observation deck. The molecular biologist's dark eyes gleamed with the particular excitement that scientists reserved for the unknown. "I've been reviewing the Quran biological data from Coalition archives. Their adaptive capabilities are extraordinary." "More extraordinary than ours?" Lena asked, a hint of competitive pride in her voice. Malik hesitated. "On paper, yes. Their cellular regeneration is 10 times faster than human capabilities. They can survive radiation levels that would turn us to ash. Their blood contains compounds that neutralize almost any toxin." "And yet the Coalition treats them as primitives too," Lena noted. "Technological advancement is the Coalition's measuring stick," Malik replied with a shrug. "The Quran have basic tool-use rudimentary metallurgy, but nothing close to space travel. They're classified as pre-spaceflight intelligences." "Pre-spaceflight intelligences who can survive conditions that would kill most Coalition species in seconds," Lena murmured. "I wonder what that says about the relationship between comfort and progress." Malik smiled thinly. "That's why we're going, isn't it? Earth wants to know how the galaxy's ultimate survivors evolved, and whether we can learn anything from them." Lena turned back to the stars. 200 years as Coalition members on Earth is still treated like the new kid. Maybe understanding another Deathworld species will give us an edge. "Or maybe we'll find that we're not as special as we think," Malik suggested. Lena's lips curved into a faint smile. "That would be a valuable lesson too, wouldn't it?" The observation deck fell silent as they both contemplated the void before them and the deadly world that awaited them on the other side. The Pioneer was humanity's pride, a state-of-the-art exploration vessel featuring the best technology Earth had developed or acquired from Coalition partners. The crew of 48 specialists represented the diversity of Earth's population, but they shared one common trait. They were all volunteers for what was classified as an extreme risk mission. In her private quarters, Lena reviewed personnel files one final time before their arrival. Sergeant Reena Patel's file was open on her screen. The robotics engineer would be critical for deploying the remote sensing equipment on Arixa's hostile surface. Behind her technical qualifications, Lena saw what had likely drawn the young engineer to this mission, both parents lost in the Mars colony disaster of 2269. Patel had nothing left on Earth except memories. Many of the crew had similar stories. People with nothing to lose often made the best explorers. Lena closed the file and pulled up the limited images of Arixa Prime's surface, captured by long-range coalition probes. Vast forests of crystalline vegetation that secreted corrosive compounds. Mountain ranges of metallic ore that conducted massive electrical storms. Oceans of liquid that was technically water, but contained so many dissolved minerals and organic compounds that it resembled blood more than anything else. And moving through this hellscape, the Quran, massive reptilian creatures with scaled armor that could repel most conventional weapons, 6 limbs that ended in titanium hard claws, and a social structure that coalition xenobiologists described as perpetual balanced warfare. They were considered the galaxy's ultimate survivors, apex predators on an apex predator world. They had evolved in conditions so hostile that most coalition species couldn't survive on their planet for more than a few minutes without advanced environmental protection. Humans with their terrestrial adaptability might manage hours instead of minutes. But even for humanity's hardiest, Arixa Prime was a death sentence without proper equipment. "Captain," the ship's AI interrupted her thoughts. "We've received a transmission from Earth Command." Lena straightened. "Display." The stern face of Admiral Zhang appeared. "Captain Cho Madison, this is a Priority 1 update to your mission parameters." His expression revealed nothing, but Lena had served under him long enough to detect the subtle tension in his voice. Recent coalition intelligence suggests there may have been unauthorized Earth contact with Arixa Prime approximately 14 months ago. Lena felt her pulse quicken. "Unauthorized contact? What kind?" "A private research vessel, the Prometheus, went missing in that sector. Coalition tracking lost them near the Arixa system. We had assumed they were destroyed in an asteroid field, but new information suggests they may have reached the planet's surface. A civilian vessel on Arixa Prime." Lena couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. Even military-grade protection would barely suffice on that world. "The Prometheus was registered as a geological survey ship, but we now believe it was a front for GeneCorp's Black Research Division. If they reached Arixa..." Lena's blood went cold. GeneCorp was Earth's leading genetic engineering corporation responsible for many of humanity's medical advancements, and equally notorious for pushing ethical boundaries to their breaking point. Your mission now includes determining whether the Prometheus reached Arixa Prime, and if so, what they did there. This is classified Level Alpha. Share only with your direct command team on a need-to-know basis." "Understood, Admiral." "One more thing, Captain. If you find evidence of interference with the Quran, you are authorized to take whatever measures necessary to contain the situation. The Coalition cannot know that humans violated the non-interference directive. The political consequences would be significant." The transmission ended, leaving Lena staring at a blank screen. Earth's position in the Coalition was already precarious. If humans were found to have interfered with a pre-spaceflight intelligence, especially one as unique as the Quran, the consequences would extend far beyond political embarrassment. "AI, summon Dr. Reyes and Sergeant Patel to my quarters," she ordered. "Priority 1. As she waited, she pulled up the GeneCorp file in Earth's classified database. The corporation had been sanctioned multiple times for unauthorized genetic experiments, but their political connections had always protected them from serious consequences. What had they hoped to find on Arixa Prime that was worth such risk? The answer seemed obvious: the Quran's extraordinary adaptive abilities. In the right hands or the wrong ones, such genetic material could revolutionize human capabilities, or create weapons beyond imagination. The door chimed, interrupting her dark thoughts. It was time to share the burden of knowledge with her senior team. Whatever waited for them on Arixa Prime had just become far more dangerous than they had anticipated. The jump to Arixa's system was smooth, the ship's AI calculating and executing the precise equations needed to bend space-time just enough to slip through the cosmic fabric. When they emerged, the red giant star that dominated Arixa's system blazed before them, bathing the bridge in crimson light. "Sensors detecting 5 planets in close orbit around the primary," reported the navigation officer. Oryxa Prime is the second from the star. Lena leaned forward in her command chair. On screen. The view screen shifted, and there it was, a world that seemed to pulse with malevolent life, even from orbit. Unlike the blue-green marble of Earth, Oryxa Prime appeared as a swirling mass of dark purples, acid greens, and angry reds. Massive storm systems covered nearly a third of the visible hemisphere. Lightning flashes, so powerful they were visible from space. It's beautiful, whispered Sergeant Patel, who had joined them on the bridge for their approach. Beauty and death often go hand in hand, Lena replied. Begin standard orbit and deploy sensor arrays. I want full spectral analysis, atmospheric composition, and surface mapping. Let's see what we're really dealing with. The ship moved silently into position, and within moments, data began flowing to the science stations. Atmospheric pressure, 3.2 times Earth standard, reported the environmental officer. Composition includes oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and high concentrations of sulfur compounds, methane, and several gases our systems can't immediately identify. Surface temperature ranges from 40 to 65 degrees Celsius in the equatorial regions, added another officer. Gravity, 1.2 times Earth standard. Lena absorbed the information. Hot, heavy, and toxic, but within the theoretical survival range for protected humans. And the Quran biosigns? Dr. Malik looked up from his console. Concentrated in the equatorial regions, particularly in what appear to be forest zones. Population estimates difficult due to interference, but the AI calculates somewhere between 8 and 12 million individuals. Interference, Lena asked sharply. Malik frowned. There's something strange in the readings, Captain. Anomalous energy signatures that don't match known core and technology. And there's a region approximately 200 kilometers north of the equator, showing biosign fluctuations I can't explain. Put it on screen, Lena ordered. The view shifted to a real-time image of the planet's surface, enhanced through multiple sensor layers. A vast forest of what looked like crystalline structures stretched across the landscape, gleaming in the harsh sunlight. But in one region, a shadowy area approximately 50 square kilometers in size showed markedly different readings. The dark zone, Sergeant Patel murmured. What's causing it? Lena demanded. Unknown, Malik admitted. But the readings suggest it's not natural. The energy pattern has a regularity that indicates... He was interrupted by a sudden alarm from the sensor array. Captain, called the tactical officer. We're detecting a massive biosign surge in the dark zone. On the screen, the shadowy region seemed to pulse, and a wave of energy rippled outward. The ship's sensors screamed in protest. It's some kind of biological electromagnetic pulse, Malik exclaimed, fingers flying over his console. The readings are off the charts. Is it targeting us? Lena asked, hands gripping her chair arms. I don't think so, the tactical officer replied. The pattern suggests it's a response to something on the surface. But, Captain, these readings match nothing in coalition databases. Whatever's happening down there is unprecedented. Lena made her decision. Prepare a landing party. Full Environmental Protection Class 5 weapons authorization. Dr. Reyes, Sergeant Patel, you're with me. We need boots on the ground to understand what we're dealing with. Captain, the first officer protested. Regulations state that the commanding officer should not join initial landing parties in high-risk environments. Lena fixed him with a steady gaze. Note your objection in the log, Commander. But if GeneCorp has interfered with the Quran, this mission just became too important to delegate. She rose from her chair. You have the bridge. Maintain orbit and be prepared for emergency extraction. Landing party assembles in Shuttle Bay 1 in 30 minutes. As they left the bridge, Sergeant Patel fell into step beside her. The young engineer's face showed a mixture of excitement and apprehension. You think it's them, don't you, the Prometheus? Something caused that energy surge, Lena replied. And it wasn't the native Quran technology. But after 14 months, how could they survive? Lena's expression darkened. That's what worries me, Sergeant. If they're still alive down there, what did they have to do to survive? The shuttle descended through Arixa's turbulent atmosphere, buffeted by winds that would have torn apart less sturdy craft. Inside, Lena and her 5-person team were sealed in environmental suits, designed specifically for Arixa's hostile conditions. The material, a complex polymer reinforced with carbon nanotubes, could withstand the planet's corrosive atmosphere and extreme temperatures. Approaching landing zone, announced the pilot, a veteran of dozens of hazardous planetary descents. Surface conditions match predictions, but I'm reading electromagnetic disturbances that might affect communications. Lena nodded. Understood. Remember, team, we maintain constant visual contact. If comms go down, we use Coalition standard hand signals. The shuttle broke through the cloud layer, and Arixa Prime's surface came into view. The crystalline forest stretched before them, structures that resembled trees, but gleamed like massive gemstones. They ranged in color from deep purple to vibrant green, reaching heights of over 100 meters. Between them, what appeared to be vegetation moved in ways that suggested it might be semi-sentient. "My God," breathed Dr. Malik through the comm. "It's even more extraordinary than the probe suggested." "And deadlier," Lena reminded him. "Every single thing you see down there has evolved to survive in conditions that should be impossible for complex life. Respect it all, touch nothing unless absolutely necessary." The shuttle found a clearing approximately 20 kilometers from the dark zone and settled onto the crystalline surface with a gentle thud. Through the viewport, they could see the ground itself seemed alive, shifting slightly as if breathing. "Suit diagnostics check," Lena ordered, and one by one each team member confirmed their environmental protection was functioning at optimal levels. "Remember, we have 8 hours of air, but the mission plan calls for no more than 4 hours on the surface for this initial survey. Primary objective is data collection. Secondary objective is determining the source of the anomalous readings." As the shuttle's ramp descended, Arixa's atmosphere hit them like a wall of heat, visible even through their protective suits, as a shimmer in the air. The gravity pulled at them noticeably, making each step require additional effort. "Deploy sensor drones," Lena commanded, and Sergeant Patel activated a series of small, spherical robots that rose from their storage compartments and spread out in a predetermined pattern. "Drones operational," Patel confirmed. "Receiving data stream now." They moved cautiously from the shuttle weapons at ready. Lena carried a standard-issue Coalition plasma rifle, powerful enough to stop most known threats, but set to non-lethal force as required by first contact protocols. The crystalline ground crunched beneath their boots, fragments breaking off and dissolving into the air as a fine dust. Each step released a slight hissing sound, the material reacting with their suit materials. "The ground is semiconductive," Patel noted, checking readings on her wrist display. "It's carrying low-level electrical currents, almost like a planetary nervous system." "Stay alert for fauna," Lena warned. "Coalition records indicate Corin hunting parties are most active during daylight hours." They had moved approximately 500 meters from the shuttle when one of the sensor drones emitted a sharp alert. "Movement," Patel reported tensely. 3 kilometers northeast. Multiple large biosigns." Lena signaled the team to take defensive positions behind a cluster of crystal formations. Through her helmet's enhanced vision, she zoomed in on the indicated direction. At first, she saw nothing but the shimmering heat haze and the strange moving vegetation. Then a flash of motion caught her eye, something massive, moving with surprising grace through the crystalline structures. "Corin," Dr. Malik confirmed, checking his scanner. "A hunting party, I think. 8 individuals." The creatures that came into view were both magnificent and terrifying. Standing nearly 3 meters tall on 4 powerful legs, with an additional pair of limbs functioning as arms, the Corin resembled Earth's ancient dinosaurs, but with adaptations that spoke of a far more punishing evolutionary path. Their bodies were covered in overlapping scales that gleamed like burnished metal, and their elongated heads featured rows of serrated teeth, visible even at this distance. But most striking were their eyes, large multifaceted organs that glowed with an inner bioluminescence, scanning their environment constantly. "They're hunting something," Lena observed, noting the coordinated way they moved, communicating with subtle body movements and occasional low-frequency vocalizations that her suit's audio sensors barely detected. The Quran stopped suddenly, all 8 of them freezing in perfect unison. Then, with a speed that belied their size, they surged forward, converging on something hidden from the human's view. A shriek cut through the air, a sound of such primal terror that Lena felt her skin prickle despite her training. The Quran attacked something with ruthless efficiency, their clawed limbs moving in patterns that suggested not just instinct, but practiced technique. "Are they using strategy?" Patel whispered. "Advanced pack hunting," Malik confirmed. "Like wolves or raptors, but with clear role specialization. Look, those 3 are herding, the 2 largest are striking, and those at the perimeter are blocking escape routes." "That's not just animal behavior," Lena said, a chill running through her that had nothing to do with her suit's temperature regulation. "That's warfare." The Quran's prey offered little resistance. From their position, the humans could see only glimpses of what appeared to be a smaller, 6-limbed creature with pale coloration. Within moments, it was over the hunting party, tearing into their kill with methodical precision. "We should," Malik began, but stopped abruptly, as another sound reached them, a low mechanical whine that was distinctly non-biological. The Quran heard it too. Their heads snapped up in unison, glowing eyes scanning. The sound came again, closer this time, and the hunting party abandoned their kill, moving swiftly into defensive positions. From the dense crystal forest emerged what at first appeared to be another Koran, but its movements were wrong, jerky, and artificial. As it stumbled into the clearing, Lena's breath caught in her throat. That's impossible," Sergeant Patel whispered. The creature that faced the Quran hunting party was a grotesque, hybrid part Quran, part machine. Its natural limbs had been replaced with metallic prosthetics, and its head was encased in a device that resembled a crude helmet. Wires and tubes penetrated its scaled hide, connecting to pulsing mechanisms that hummed with power. "Earth technology," Lena said grimly, recognizing the design principles, despite the crude implementation. "Early cybernetic interfaces, military grade." The cyborg Quran let out a roar that was partly biological, partly electronic distortion. The hunting party responded with challenging calls of their own, but they kept their distance, clearly unsettled by the unnatural creature. "It's injured," Malik observed, pointing to fluid leaking from several of the interface points. "The integration is failing." As if to confirm his assessment, the cyborg creature stumbled, one of its mechanical limbs sparking violently. The hunting party seized the opportunity, 2 of the largest Koran charging forward. But before they reached the cyborg, it raised an appendage that had been modified into a weapon. The flash of energy was blinding, the explosive force, knocking 2 of the Quran off their feet. The damaged cyborg fired again, its aim erratic, but the power of its weapon undeniable. "That's an Earth military pulse cannon," Lena said, shock evident in her voice. "Discontinued model, but unmistakable design." The Quran hunting party regrouped quickly, demonstrating a tactical awareness that impressed even Lena's military-trained mind. They separated, circling the cyborg, which was now obviously malfunctioning, its movements becoming more erratic. What happened next demonstrated why the Quran were considered apex predators. In perfect coordination, they attacked from multiple angles. The cyborg's weapon discharged twice more, killing 1 Quran and wounding another, but the remaining creatures overwhelmed it with brutal efficiency. They targeted the technological components with precision, as if recognizing them as the source of the threat. Within minutes, the cyborg lay in pieces, the Quran methodically dismantling its technological components and examining them with what appeared to be grim curiosity. "They know what they're looking for," Lena realized aloud. "This isn't their first encounter with Earth technology." "Captain," Sergeant Patel's voice was urgent. "One of my drones just went dark, the one closest to the dark zone. Before it failed, it transmitted this. She displayed a blurry image captured by the drone. Through the interference, they could make out what appeared to be a structure, angular metallic, and distinctly non-Coran in design. "That's an Earth Frontier Core shelter module," Lena said, recognizing the design immediately. "Standard issue for long-duration planetary missions." "The Prometheus crew," Malik concluded. "Or what's left of them," Lena responded grimly. "We need to get a closer look at that structure, but first," she gestured toward the remains of the cyborg Koran, which the hunting party was now abandoning, apparently satisfied that it posed no further threat. "We need samples from that hybrid. Whatever GeneCorp was attempting, the evidence is there." "The Koran are moving away," reported the security officer. "But they're heading in the direction of our shuttle." Lena made a quick decision. "Patel, get your remaining drones to create a distraction 2 kilometers south. That should draw them away from both the shuttle and us." As Patel implemented the command, the team moved cautiously toward the remains of the cyborg creature. The Koran hunting party, detecting the disturbance caused by the drones, changed direction, moving away with that same coordinated precision that marked them as something more than mere animals. When they reached the cyborg's remains, the extent of the modification became clear. What had once been a Koran had been extensively altered with crude but effective Earth technology. Artificial neural interfaces had been grafted directly into the creature's central nervous system, and multiple organ systems showed signs of genetic manipulation. "This is butchery," Dr. Malik said, his scientific detachment momentarily abandoned in the face of such grotesque experimentation. He collected samples with shaking hands. They weren't just studying the Quran, they were weaponizing them. "And it backfired," Lena observed, noting the signs of rejection in the biological components. The systems were failing. The cybernetics were being rejected. "Not just rejected," Malik said, examining a tissue sample through his suit's analysis module. The Quran's cellular structure was adapting, incorporating the foreign elements, but subverting their function. It's as if their very DNA was fighting back against the alterations. Lena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the environmental controls in her suit. "Finish collecting your samples. We need to investigate that structure in the dark zone." As Malik worked, Lena examined the weapon that had been grafted onto the cyborg's limb. The design was unmistakably Earth military, but it had been modified, integrated with biological components in ways that suggested desperate innovation. "Captain," Patel called, her voice tight with tension, "I'm detecting multiple biosigns converging on our position, different from the hunting party, larger." Lena checked her own scanner. "How many?" "At least 20. Approach pattern suggests coordinated movement." "We've overstayed our welcome," Lena decided. "Collect what you can in the next 2 minutes, then we move toward the dark zone. The structure might offer better protection than open ground." As they gathered their samples and prepared to move, a sound reached them, a deep, resonating call that seemed to echo through the crystalline forest. It was answered by similar calls from multiple directions. "They're communicating," Malik said unnecessarily, "coordinating their approach." "Move out," Lena ordered. "Defensive formation heading northeast toward the structure. Patel, deploy your remaining drones in a perimeter pattern. I want advanced warning of any approach." They moved swiftly but cautiously through the alien landscape, each step releasing small puffs of reactive dust from the crystalline ground. The strange vegetation seemed to react to their passing tendrils, reaching toward them before recoiling from their protective suits. The calls continued, growing closer. Through gaps in the crystal formations, they occasionally glimpsed movement flashes of metallic scales, the glow of bioluminescent eyes. 1 kilometer to the structure, Patel reported, checking her instruments. "But the dark zone is affecting our sensors. Readings becoming unreliable." Lena felt the weight of command pressing down on her heavier than Arixa's enhanced gravity. She had led her team into a situation that was deteriorating rapidly, based on information that was proving dangerously incomplete. If Earth authorities had known the true nature of what GeneCorp had been doing on Arixa Prime, Would they have sent the Pioneer at all? Too late for such questions now. Her responsibility was to her team and their mission. New plan, she decided. We split into two groups. I'll take Patel and one security officer toward the structure. Dr. Malik, you and the others return to the shuttle with the samples. If we don't make contact within 2 hours, take off and report to Earth Command. Captain, Malik protested, the scientific value is worthless if none of us makes it back, Lena cut him off. Those samples may be the only evidence of what happened here. They need to reach Earth. Before Malik could argue further, one of Patel's perimeter drones sent an urgent alert. A massive biosign was approaching rapidly from the north, larger than any they had detected previously. Move! Lena shouted, but it was too late. The crystal formation to their right exploded outward as something huge burst through it. The team scattered weapons raised automatically. Through the shower of crystal fragments, Lena glimpsed their attacker, a Koran, at least twice the size of those in the hunting party, its scales darker, and its eyes blazing with a blue-white light that seemed almost technological. Fire! She ordered, and plasma bolts streaked toward the massive creature. They struck its scaled hide and dissipated, leaving only minor scorching. The giant Koran roared the sound so powerful it vibrated through their suits. Fall back! Lena commanded, firing again. This time, she aimed for the creature's eyes and was rewarded with a shriek of pain as one plasma bolt found its mark. The massive Koran recoiled, one glowing eye dimmed, but it didn't retreat. Instead, it charged. The security officer beside Lena wasn't fast enough. The Koran's massive front limb caught him claws, shredding through his environmental suit as if it were paper. His scream cut off abruptly as the creature's jaws closed around his upper body. Go! Lena shouted to the others, firing continuously to draw the Koran's attention. Get to the shuttle. Dr. Malik hesitated, then grabbed the sample case and ran the remaining security officer, covering their retreat. Lena and Sergeant Patel moved in the opposite direction, heading toward the dark zone and the mysterious structure. The giant Koran, having dispatched the security officer, turned toward them, its injured eye, weeping a glowing fluid that sizzled when it hit the ground. It moved with shocking speed for its size, closing the distance in powerful bounds. The ravine, Patel shouted, pointing to a narrow fissure in the crystalline ground ahead. It's too large to follow. They sprinted for the opening, the Koran gaining with each bound. Lena felt the ground shake with its approach, heard its breathing a rhythmic hiss that sounded almost mechanized. At the last moment, she turned and fired a sustained burst directly into its open mouth. The creature reeled back, screeching in pain, giving them just enough time to slide into the ravine. The opening was indeed too narrow for the massive Koran, but it slammed against the crystal edges, sending shards raining down on them. Its claws scrabbled at the opening, gouging deep furrows in material that could withstand most coalition cutting tools. Through here, Patel urged, pointing to where the ravine widened into a tunnel-like formation. My scanner shows it leads toward the dark zone. They moved as quickly as they dared, the sounds of the Koran's frustrated rage echoing behind them. The crystalline tunnel twisted and descended, leading them deeper beneath the surface. The light changed the harsh daylight of Arixa Prime, fading to a strange pulsing glow, emitted by veins of some bioluminescent material embedded in the crystal walls. Captain, Patel said, her voice hushed with awe, look at this. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber, and within it stood the unmistakable form of an Earth vessel, or what remained of one. The ship had been partially dismantled, its components repurposed to create a fortified structure that melded Earth technology with the crystalline materials of Arixa Prime. The Prometheus, Lena confirmed, approaching cautiously. They crash-landed and converted the ship into a shelter. As they drew closer, they saw that the structure was surrounded by a perimeter of devices that pulsed with energy, the source of the dark zone's electromagnetic disturbance. Defense system, Patel observed. Designed to disrupt Koran sensory capabilities, I'd guess. That's why they avoid this area. Lena checked her scanner. No life signs inside. If anyone survived the crash, they're not here now. They approached the makeshift airlock that had been constructed from the ship's emergency systems. The external controls were Earth standard, but they had been modified, integrated with biological components that pulsed with the same rhythm as the defense perimeter. They were adapting their technology to the planet, Patel said, examining the interface, using Arixa's natural materials to enhance their systems. Lena tried the emergency override, and to her surprise, the airlock cycled open. Inside, the air was breathable barely. Their suit sensors registered high toxin levels, but within the survivable range for short exposures. "Keep your helmet sealed," Lena ordered nonetheless. "We don't know what they were working with in here." The interior of the structure revealed the true nature of the Prometheus mission. What had once been the ship's cargo hold had been converted into a laboratory. Workstations lined the walls, each dedicated to a different aspect of biological research. Specimen containers, most shattered or empty-filled storage racks. And dominating the center of the room was an operating table equipped with restraints sized for a Koran. "This wasn't research," Lena said, her voice hard. "This was a military black site disguised as a scientific mission." Patel had moved to one of the workstations and was accessing its systems. "Power's still functioning. They tapped into the electrical currents in the ground. Most data is corrupted, but I might be able to recover some logs." While Patel worked, Lena explored the rest of the structure. The living quarters revealed that at least 15 people had survived the initial crash. Personal effects were scattered about: photographs, small tokens from Earth, handwritten notes. In one room, Lena found a wall covered with technical diagrams of Koran physiology, annotated with modifications and enhancements. They were trying to create super soldiers, she realized aloud, using Koran biology as a template. "Captain," Patel called. "I've recovered a partial video log. Last entry dated approximately 3 months ago." Lena returned to the main laboratory, where Patel had activated a damaged but functional display screen. The face that appeared was haggard, the eyes sunken and wild with a combination of exhaustion and feverish excitement. "Final project update." The man began, his voice raspy. "Test subject K-12 has exceeded all expectations. Neural integration, complete combat capabilities, enhanced by approximately 240% over baseline Koran. The adaptive gene sequence we isolated from subject K4 has been successfully incorporated, allowing for rapid healing and environmental adaptation while maintaining cognitive control." The man coughed violently, blood speckling the camera lens. When he continued, his voice was weaker. "The containment breach in Sector 3 has spread. 5 more personnel lost. That brings our survivor count to 3. The outer perimeter is holding, but the Deathlords' forces grow more numerous. They're learning, adapting to our defenses faster than we can upgrade them." He leaned closer to the camera, and Lena could see that one of his eyes had been replaced with a cybernetic implant, similar to those they had seen on the cyborg Koran. "K-12 remains our only viable countermeasure. We've uploaded all combat data and remaining tactical options to its neural interface. If you're receiving this, implement Protocol Omega immediately. The hybridization program must continue. Earth's survival depends on it." The log ended abruptly, leaving Lena and Patel staring at a blank screen. "Deathlord?" Patel questioned. Before Lena could respond, a distant alarm sounded from the perimeter. On a monitoring screen, they saw multiple Koran approaching the dark zone, seemingly unaffected by the defensive systems. "They've adapted," Lena realized. "Just like he said, they learn, they adapt." "Captain," Patel said urgently, checking her scanner. "That massive biosign is approaching again, and it's not alone." Lena made a quick decision. "Download whatever data you can. We need to warn the ship." She activated her comm system, but received only static in response. "Interference is too strong. We'll have to reach the surface to establish contact." Patel disconnected from the workstation, a small data module clutched in her hand. "Downloaded everything that was still intact, mostly research logs and genetic sequences." A crash echoed through the structure as something struck the outer defenses. On the monitor, they saw the massive Quran, the one with the damaged eye, leading a group of smaller ones in a coordinated attack on the perimeter. "That must be the Death Lord," Lena said. "Look at how the others defer to it. And those cybernetic enhancements along its spine. They're more sophisticated than what we saw on the other hybrid." "It's intelligent," Patel observed, watching the creature direct the others with deliberate movements. "Far more than a simple predator." Another crash closer this time. The perimeter defenses were failing. "Is there another way out?" Lena asked. Patel checked the structure's schematics on her display. "Emergency tunnel originally an escape pod shaft. Leads to the surface about half a kilometer east of here." They moved quickly, gathering what data modules they could carry. As they reached the narrow tunnel that had once housed the ship's escape mechanism, they heard the outer airlock breach. The roar that followed echoed through the metal corridors, a sound of triumph and rage combined. "Go," Lena ordered, pushing Patel into the tunnel ahead of her. "Get that data to the ship." The tunnel was barely wide enough for their environmental suits, forcing them to crawl on hands and knees. Behind them, the sounds of destruction grew louder as the Koran tore through the laboratory. They had traveled perhaps 200 meters when the tunnel shook violently. Dust and crystal fragments rained down on them. "They're digging!" Patel exclaimed. "They know we're in here." Lena checked her scanner. 300 meters to the surface. Keep moving." They crawled desperately, the tunnel continuing to shake, as the Koran's powerful limbs tore at the ground above them. Just as they reached a vertical shaft that would take them to the surface, the ceiling behind them collapsed, and a massive clawed limb thrust into the tunnel. "Climb!" Lena shouted, firing her plasma rifle at the limb. The blast struck true, and the limb withdrew with a screech of pain. "I'll hold them off." "Captain." "That's an order, Sergeant. Get that data to the ship." Patel hesitated, then began climbing the vertical shaft. Lena positioned herself at the junction plasma rifle, aimed at the collapsed section of tunnel. She could hear movement beyond the fall of debris, the scrape of scales against crystal. Then silence. For a moment, Lena thought the creatures had retreated. Then, the debris exploded outward as the Death Lord smashed through its massive head, filling the tunnel. Its damaged eye was now completely dark, but the functioning one fixed on her, with an intelligence that was unmistakably sentient. Lena fired the plasma bolt, striking the creature directly in the face. It recoiled, but didn't retreat. Instead, it opened its jaws and emitted a focused sonic blast that sent Lena crashing against the wall of the shaft, her rifle flying from her grasp. Dazed, she looked up to see the Death Lord forcing its massive shoulders through the tunnel, opening claws extended toward her. In that moment, she knew with certainty that this was no mere animal, the calculated hatred in its gaze, the deliberate way it had disarmed her, rather than simply attacking. This was a being with purpose, with memory, with a vendetta. "Captain," Patel's voice came from above. The sergeant had reached the surface and was leaning down the shaft, her own weapon aimed past Lena at the approaching Death Lord. The plasma bolt struck the creature's already damaged eye, penetrating deep into its skull. The Death Lord convulsed its massive body, thrashing in the confined space of the tunnel. Acidic blood sprayed from the wound, hissing where it contacted the walls. Lena scrambled upward, climbing desperately, as the dying creature's thrashing threatened to collapse the entire shaft. Patel seized her arm, hauling her the final distance to the surface. They emerged into the harsh daylight of Arixa Prime to find themselves in the midst of chaos. The Quran that had accompanied the Death Lord were engaged in combat with Earth forces, a full tactical team from the Pioneer, their advanced combat suits, gleaming in the red sunlight as they laid down suppressive fire. Captain Cho Madison. A suited figure approached the insignia of the ship's security chief, visible on the shoulder. "We received Dr. Reyes's report and deployed immediately." "Status," Lena demanded, accepting a replacement weapon. "Shuttle secure. Dr. Reyes and his team are already aboard with the samples. We've been holding this position for extraction." A furious roar echoed from the shaft behind them. Impossibly, the Death Lord was still alive, its massive claws appearing at the edge of the opening as it forced its way toward the surface. "Fall back to the shuttle," Lena ordered. "Tactical team set concussion charges on the shaft. Let's bury that thing." As the team prepared the charges, Lena observed the battlefield. The Corran were fighting with extraordinary coordination, using the crystal formations for cover and executing flanking maneuvers that spoke of tactical training. But Earth's advanced weaponry was proving superior, the plasma rifles cutting down the attackers with devastating efficiency. Charges set called the Demolition Specialist. "Everyone clear the area," Lena commanded. "Detonate on my mark." The team retreated toward the waiting shuttle, maintaining suppressive fire as they moved. Just as they reached the relative safety of the vessel's defensive perimeter, the Death Lord burst from the shaft, its massive form silhouetted against Arixa's crimson sky. Blood streamed from its ruined eye, and parts of its skull were visibly damaged, yet still it came. "Detonate now!" Lena shouted. The charges exploded, collapsing the shaft and sending a shockwave through the crystalline ground. A fissure opened beneath the Death Lord, and for a moment, the massive creature teetered on the edge of the abyss. Then, with a roar of defiance, it leapt clear, charging toward the shuttle with murderous intent. "All units concentrated fire," Lena ordered, raising her own weapon. The combined firepower of the Earth forces struck the Death Lord like a wall of energy. The creature staggered, but continued forward, its extraordinary biology allowing it to withstand damage that would have vaporized lesser beings. "The cybernetic spine," Sergeant Patel shouted. "Target the implants." Lena adjusted her aim, firing at the metallic structures embedded along the creature's spine. The plasma bolt struck with precision, and one of the implants exploded in a shower of sparks and fluid. The Death Lord convulsed, losing coordination in its hind limbs. "Again," Lena commanded, and the team fired as one. The second implant ruptured, and the Death Lord collapsed, its massive body crashing to the ground with enough force to shake the shuttle. But still, it lived, dragging itself forward with its front limbs, glowing eye fixed on Lena with undiluted hatred. "Get everyone on board," Lena ordered the security chief. "Prepare for immediate takeoff." As the team retreated into the shuttle, Lena approached the fallen Death Lord, keeping her weapon trained on its head. The creature watched her, its breathing labored, but its gaze unwavering. "You understand me, don't you?" she said softly. "What did they do to you?" The Death Lord made a sound, not a roar or a growl, but a series of modulated vocalizations that chilled Lena to her core. It was attempting to speak. "Captain," Patel called from the shuttle ramp. "We need to go now. More Corran approaching from the east." Lena backed away from the Death Lord, her mind racing with implications. The creature had been modified not just physically, but cognitively. The Gene Corp scientists hadn't just created a weapon, they had elevated a predator to something approaching sentience. As the shuttle lifted off, Lena watched through the viewport as the Death Lord's companions reached it. But instead of attacking the wounded creature, they gathered around it protectively, some bringing what appeared to be medicinal plants. The last thing she saw before the clouds obscured her view was the Death Lord raising itself partially upright, staring at the departing shuttle with unmistakable promise in its gaze. This wasn't over. Back aboard the Pioneer, the command team gathered in the secure briefing room. The samples collected from the cyborg Corran and the data retrieved from the Prometheus laboratory lay at the center of the table, representing both incredible scientific opportunity and profound ethical transgression. The genetic analysis is extraordinary. Dr. Malik reported, his voice hushed, with a mixture of awe and revulsion. Gene Corp wasn't just studying the Corran's adaptive capabilities. They were attempting to integrate them with human genetics. And they succeeded, at least partially. "The hybrid we encountered wasn't the culmination of their work," Lena noted. "The logs indicate Subject K-12, the Death Lord, was their crowning achievement. A weaponized apex predator with near-human intelligence," Sergeant Patel said, shaking her head. "What were they thinking?" They were thinking about Earth's position in the coalition, Lena replied grimly. About creating the ultimate soldier that could survive any environment, adapt to any threat. The logs are clear this was a military project disguised as scientific research. And now we have a planet full of Koran who have been exposed to human technology, human genetics, and human warfare techniques, Malik observed. The implications for their development are incalculable. Lena stood at the viewport watching Arixa Prime rotate slowly beneath them. From orbit, it still appeared beautiful in its deadly way, the swirling storms and crystalline landmasses creating patterns of hypnotic complexity. We have two responsibilities now, she said finally. First, to report accurately what we've found the truth about the Prometheus mission and the current state of the Quran. Second, to ensure that the Coalition understands the Quran can no longer be classified simply as pre-spaceflight intelligences. Whatever they were before Gene Corp's interference has accelerated their development in ways we can't yet fully comprehend. The Coalition will demand quarantine at minimum, Malik warned. Possibly more extreme measures if they believe the Quran pose a genuine threat to galactic stability. Which is why our report must be precise and factual, Lena emphasized. We need to make it clear that the Quran are victims in this scenario, not aggressors. Even the Death Lord, Patel asked quietly. Lena thought of the creature's eyes, of the attempted communication in its final moments. Especially the Death Lord. It was created as a weapon, but has become something more, a leader, a unifier for its kind. We need to understand it before anyone makes decisions about containment or worse. The comm system chimed, interrupting their discussion. Captain, came the bridge officer's voice. We're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Zhang requests immediate contact. Lena exchanged glances with her team. The moment of reckoning had arrived sooner than expected. Put him through to the briefing room, she ordered. Admiral Zhang's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grave. Captain Cho Madison, I understand you've made contact with the surface of Arixa Prime and recovered evidence pertaining to the Prometheus mission. Yes, Admiral. The situation is complex and concerning. Gene Corp was conducting unauthorized genetic experimentation on the Quran, attempting to create hybrid soldiers by combining their adaptive capabilities with human cognitive enhancements. Zhang's expression darkened. And the results? Mixed, sir. Most subjects failed biological rejection, mental instability. But one succeeded to a degree that even the scientists didn't anticipate. They called it the Death Lord. It's a Quran with enhanced intelligence, strategic capability, and leadership qualities, and it's now commanding others of its kind. Zhang was silent for a long moment. Your recommendations, Captain? Lena took a breath. This was the moment that would define not only the mission, but potentially the future relationship between humans, the Quran, and the wider coalition. I recommend full disclosure to the Coalition Council, sir. What Gene Corp did violates every ethical standard we claim to uphold. But more importantly, I recommend immediate establishment of a scientific and diplomatic mission to Arixa Prime. The Quran are no longer simply apex predators. They're an emerging intelligence that has been irreversibly influenced by human interference. We have a responsibility to understand the changes we've caused and to establish communication if possible. That's a bold position, Captain, Zhang said carefully. Many would argue for containment, perhaps even more extreme measures. With respect, Admiral, those approaches would only confirm the Quran's impression of us as enemies. The Death Lord already associates humans with violence and experimentation. If we respond with more of the same, we create exactly the threat we fear. Zhang studied her for a long moment. Your full report, including all genetic samples and data, will be reviewed by Earth Command and the Coalition Science Directorate. Until then, maintain orbit and continue sensor observation of the planet. No further landing parties without direct authorization. Understood, Admiral. As the transmission ended, Lena turned back to her team. Prepare the most comprehensive report possible. Every detail matters: the structure of the Prometheus lab, the nature of the experiments, the observed behavior of the Quran, especially the Death Lord, and include our personal assessments of the intelligence and adaptability we witnessed. Captain, Sergeant Patel said, her expression troubled. Do you really believe the coalition will pursue diplomatic contact rather than containment? Lena's gaze returned to the viewport, to the swirling storms of Arixa Prime below. I believe they'll do what they perceive as necessary for galactic security. Our job is to ensure they understand that the greater security risk lies in creating an enemy rather than a potential ally. In the days that followed, the Pioneer maintained its orbit around Arixa Prime, its sensors recording the activities on the surface below. The data revealed disturbing patterns, increased Corran activity around the dark zone, organized movements that suggested military exercises, and energy signatures that indicated they were experimenting with the technology left behind by the Prometheus team. 1 week after their initial landing, Lena received the response from Earth Command. The Pioneer was to be relieved by a larger vessel, the Resolution, which would carry a full scientific and diplomatic team specifically trained for first contact scenarios. They're taking our recommendations seriously, Malik observed, as they reviewed the orders together. For now, Lena agreed. But the Coalition Council remains divided. Some species are calling for immediate quarantine of the entire Arixa system. Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent call from the sensor officer. Captain, we're detecting a massive energy surge from the dark zone. It's like nothing we've recorded previously. On the main view screen, they watched as a pulse of energy expanded outward from the former Prometheus site, visible even from orbit, as a ripple of light that spread across the crystalline forests. Analysis, Lena demanded. It's a communication signal, Patel reported, her fingers flying over her console. Broadband multiple frequencies patterns consistent with... Captain, it's an Earth communication protocol. Military grade, but at least 50 years outdated. They're trying to contact us, Lena realized. The Deathlord is using the Prometheus equipment to reach out. Should we respond? Malik asked. Lena considered the implications. Responding would exceed her current orders, potentially compromising Earth's position with the Coalition. Not responding could be interpreted by the Quran as yet another rejection, another reason to view humans as enemies rather than potential allies. Prepare a response using the same protocol, she decided. Basic greeting only acknowledging receipt of their signal and informing them that formal contact will be established soon. No specific details about our intentions or capabilities. As Patel implemented the order, Lena watched the planet below with a mixture of apprehension and hope. The Quran had evolved as the ultimate survivors on a world designed to kill. Humans had emerged from their own challenging environment to reach for the stars. Perhaps their shared experience as Deathworld species could form the foundation for understanding rather than conflict. The Resolution arrived 3 days later, a massive vessel that dwarfed the Pioneer. Its commander, Admiral Ryder, was a veteran of multiple first contact scenarios, his reputation for thoughtful diplomacy preceding him. Captain Cho Madison. He greeted Lena as she boarded the larger ship for her final briefing. Your reports have caused quite a stir in Coalition circles. Several species are questioning whether Earth violated the non-interference directives. Gene Corp violated those directives, Lena corrected firmly. Without authorization from Earth government. My mission was to investigate and report, which is exactly what we did. Ryder nodded, seemingly satisfied with her response. Your team's observations of the Deathlord are particularly interesting. A genetically enhanced apex predator with strategic intelligence and leadership capabilities. Under different circumstances, the Coalition would classify such a being as a galactic security threat. Under the current circumstances, I believe we should classify it as a potential bridge between our species, Lena countered. The Deathlord has demonstrated not just intelligence, but curiosity. It initiated contact. That suggests an openness to communication that we should encourage. Which is why Earth Command has authorized a preliminary communication protocol. Ryder gestured to a holographic display, showing the planned approach. A small team will establish a secure position at the edge of what you've termed the Dark Zone. From there, we'll attempt to establish direct communication with the Death Lord and its followers. I'd like to be part of that team, Lena said immediately. Ryder studied her thoughtfully. You've already exceeded the normal risk parameters for a mission commander captain. I've also established a connection, however tenuous, with the Death Lord. It knows me. In a first contact scenario, that familiarity could be valuable. After a moment's consideration, Ryder nodded. Very well. You'll join the initial communication team as an advisor. But understand this, our primary objective is to contain the situation. If the Quarren, especially this Death Lord, demonstrate hostile intent, we are authorized to take whatever measures necessary to neutralize the threat. Lena felt a chill at his words, but nodded her understanding. The Coalition, for all its proclaimed enlightenment, still operated from a position of fear when confronted with the unknown, especially when that unknown possessed teeth and claws evolved to tear through armor plating. The landing team deployed the following day, 20 specialists in advanced environmental suits, armed with the latest defensive weapons, but under strict orders to use them only as a last resort. They established their position on a ridge overlooking the Dark Zone, setting up communication equipment designed to receive and transmit across the spectrum of frequencies the Quran had demonstrated the ability to perceive. No movement in the target zone, reported the security officer scanning the area with enhanced sensors. But we're being watched. Multiple biosigns in the crystal formations to the north. They're assessing us, Lena noted, determining our intentions before revealing themselves. Dr. Julia Esteban, the xenolinguistic specialist, activated the communication array, broadcasting initial greeting sequence on all identified frequencies. The message was deliberately simple, a series of mathematical patterns establishing basic concepts like counting and geometry, followed by simplified images of humans in non-threatening poses. It was the standard first contact protocol designed to demonstrate intelligence and peaceful intent without cultural assumptions. For over an hour, they received no response. The Quran remained hidden, observing, but not engaging. Then, just as tension was beginning to mount among the team, the communication array activated with an incoming signal. "We're receiving," Esteban exclaimed. "It's not what I expected." The signal resolved into audio, not mathematical patterns or abstract concepts, but words. English words spoken in a harsh, grating voice that nonetheless formed coherent sentences. "Human soldiers, you return. Why?" The team exchanged stunned glances. "It's speaking English," Ryder whispered, shocked. "How is that possible?" The neural interface, Lena realized. The Prometheus scientists must have uploaded language data directly into the Death Lord's enhanced brain. It's not just mimicking, it understands. Esteban adjusted the array. "Should I respond in kind?" Ryder hesitated, then nodded. "Keep it simple. Establish our peaceful intent." "We come to talk," Esteban spoke clearly into the transmitter. "To understand. We are not the humans who came before. We do not wish to harm you." There was a long pause, and then the grating voice returned stronger now. "All humans harm. All humans lie. You make me more. Then you fear what you make." "It's referring to the genetic experimentation," Lena said quietly. "It understands what was done to it." She stepped forward, taking the transmitter from Esteban. "This is Captain Lena Cho-Madison. We met in the tunnels beneath your territory. I understand your anger. What was done to you was wrong. We are here to acknowledge that wrong and to find a way forward." Another pause, longer this time. Then movement at the edge of the Dark Zone, a massive shape emerging from the shadows. The Death Lord had grown since their last encounter. Its body was now adorned with a combination of the crystalline materials of its homeworld and salvaged technology from the Prometheus laboratory. The cybernetic implants along its spine had been refined, augmented with new components that pulsed with energy. Lena Cho-Madison, The creature spoke, its mouth moving in approximation of human speech patterns. You fought. You survived. You understand survival. Yes, Lena confirmed, stepping forward despite Ryder's warning gesture. Humans are survivors too. Our world was not as harsh as yours, but it challenged us, forced us to adapt. Deathworlders, the Death Lord said, using the coalition term with what sounded almost like pride. Like Koran. Yes, like Koran. The massive creature approached, moving with the same predatory grace Lena remembered, but now, with an added dimension of deliberation that spoke of its enhanced intelligence. It stopped a dozen meters from the human position, close enough for Lena to see the intricate patterns in its scales, the glow of its remaining eye, and the healed scar tissue where the other had been. The ones before, it continued. They took Koran, changed Koran, made us weapons. But weapon turns against maker. That was wrong, Lena acknowledged. Those humans acted without authority, without permission. What they did violated our own laws. The Death Lord made a sound that might have been laughter, a harsh, grating noise that sent chills through the human team. Laws. Koran have laws too. Kill or be killed. Take what strengthens. Destroy what threatens. It gestured with one massive clawed limb, and from the surrounding crystal formations emerged dozens of other Koran. Some showed signs of cybernetic enhancement, similar to the Death Lord's, though less extensive. Others were unmodified, but moved with the same deliberate coordination that marked them as under the Death Lord's influence. And now, Lena asked, aware that the situation could tip into violence with a single wrong word. What law will you follow with us? The Death Lord's eye fixed on her, its gaze containing depths of calculation that no natural Koran could have possessed. Now, we learn. We take what humans left. We grow stronger. Soon we leave Arixa. Soon we join stars. The implications struck Lena like a physical blow. The Death Lord wasn't just talking about adapting human technology. It was talking about space travel. About joining the interstellar community that until now had regarded its kind as little more than dangerous animals. That path is possible, she said carefully. But it requires cooperation, not conflict. The galaxy beyond Arixa is vast and complex. There are many species, many worlds, many laws beyond kill or be killed. We learn those too, the Death Lord replied with chilling confidence. We adapt, always adapt. Ryder stepped forward, joining Lena. What do you propose then? What do the Koran want from humanity now? The Death Lord's attention shifted to the Admiral, assessing him with that same calculating gaze. Knowledge, technology, recognition. And in return, Ryder pressed. We do not destroy you when we reach stars, the Death Lord answered simply. The human team tensed hands, moving toward weapons. But Lena raised a hand, stopping them. She recognized the statement for what it was: not a threat, but a negotiation tactic learned perhaps from the very humans who had experimented on the Death Lord. We could destroy each other, she countered evenly. Or we could ally. Deathworlders among the stars supporting each other's interests. Earth has much to teach you about survival beyond Arixa. And perhaps the Koran have things to teach us as well. The Death Lord was silent for a long moment, its enhanced mind visibly processing the concept. Then it made a gesture to its followers, who retreated slightly, creating a less threatening formation. Show trust, it demanded. Remove protection, breathe Arixa air. Lena understood the significance of the request immediately. By removing her helmet on this toxic world, she would be placing herself entirely at the Death Lord's mercy, a gesture of vulnerability that would demonstrate either foolish weakness or profound trust depending on how the Quran interpreted it. Captain, that's suicide, Ryder warned. The atmospheric toxins are within survivable parameters for short exposure, Lena finished. Our suits confirmed that in the Prometheus structure. Before anyone could stop her, she reached up and disengaged her helmet seals. The harsh air of Arixa Prime hit her immediately hot, acrid, burning her lungs with each breath. Her eyes watered, and she felt her skin prickle with exposure to the alien atmosphere. The Death Lord watched her, its posture changing subtly, from aggressive to curious. It approached closer, lowering its massive head to examine her exposed face. Its breath, surprisingly cool, washed over her as it inhaled her scent. Different, it observed, but same. Deathworlder. Fighting against the discomfort of the toxic air, Lena held the creature's gaze. We can help each other survive. That's what Deathworlders do best. The Death Lord straightened, turning to regard its followers. A series of vocalizations followed a language completely distinct from the English it used to address the humans. The other Koran responded, some with obvious disagreement, others with what appeared to be support. Finally, the Death Lord turned back to Lena, who was now struggling to maintain her composure as the toxic atmosphere continued to assault her system. We agree, it announced. Koran and humans, learning, sharing, preparing for stars. It extended a clawed limb, a gesture it must have observed from the Prometheus scientists, an approximation of a human handshake. Lena, fighting against the burning in her lungs, reached out and placed her hand against the creature's massive claw. Alliance, the Death Lord declared. Alliance. Lena confirmed, quickly resealing her helmet, as darkness began to edge her vision. As fresh air flooded her suit, she saw Admiral Ryder's expression, a mixture of awe and concern. Captain, that was either the bravest or the most foolhardy action I've ever witnessed, and possibly the most significant first contact moment in Earth's history. The Death Lord turned away, gesturing for its followers to retreat. But before disappearing back into the dark zone, it paused, looking back at Lena with its single, glowing eye. We learn from you, it said. You learn from us. Next time we meet among stars, equals. As the Quran disappeared into their territory, Lena reflected on the creature's words. The Death Lord had been created through humanity's worst impulses: exploitation, militarization, the desire for power without responsibility. Yet from that unethical beginning had emerged something unexpected, a bridge between two Deathworld species that might, given time and understanding, benefit both. 3 months later, Lena stood on the observation deck of the Resolution, watching as the newly established Joint Research Station on Arixa Prime transmitted its latest findings. The diplomatic mission had evolved into something more profound, a genuine exchange of knowledge between humans and Quran. Under the Death Lord's leadership, the Quran were adapting Earth technology to their own needs with frightening speed, while human scientists studied the extraordinary biological adaptations that made survival on Arixa possible. The Coalition Council has officially recognized the Quran as an emerging intelligence, Admiral Ryder informed her, joining her at the viewport. It's unprecedented. No species has ever advanced so rapidly from pre-space flight to potential Coalition membership candidacy. They had help, Lena noted, however unethical its form. Indeed. Which raises questions the Coalition is struggling to answer. If interference accelerated their development, does that invalidate their achievements? Or does it simply change the timeline of what would have happened naturally? Lena watched as another data packet arrived, this one containing genetic sequences. The Quran had willingly shared adaptations that might revolutionize human medicine. I think the Death Lord would say that adaptation is adaptation regardless of its source. Taking what strengthens and discarding what doesn't, that's the fundamental law of survival on any Death World. Ryder nodded thoughtfully. Earth Command has approved your new assignment, by the way. You'll command the first joint human Koran expedition to the Coalition Central Worlds. Quite a responsibility, introducing the galaxy to its newest potential members. And giving the galaxy a glimpse of what Deathworld species can accomplish together, Lena added. The Quran thought they were apex predators until humans arrived. Now they're discovering that collaboration might be the ultimate adaptation. As she spoke, a new transmission appeared on the screen, a message from the Death Lord itself, using the communication protocols it had mastered with unsettling speed. The creature's command of language had improved dramatically, its thoughts expressed with increasing complexity. Ready for stars. The message read simply, Deathworlders united. Galaxy will adapt to us. Lena smiled at the characteristic blend of confidence and challenge in the Death Lord's words. Whatever the future held for humans, and Koran in the wider galaxy, one thing was certain: the Coalition's comfortable species were about to learn that those who evolved in the harshest conditions carried both terrible strength and profound resilience. Together, Earth and Arixa might forge a new path among the stars, one where survival depended not on domination, but on the shared wisdom of those who had faced death daily and emerged stronger. "They thought they were apex predators," she murmured, echoing her earlier words to the Death Lord. "Now they're learning from us." And perhaps, she reflected, humans were learning something equally valuable in return: that even in a universe of countless stars and species, those who shared the crucible of evolution on unforgiving worlds would always recognize something of themselves in each other. Deathworlders among the stars, carrying the harsh lessons of their origins into a future limited only by their ability to adapt. The message from Arixa continued to glow on the screen, a promise and a challenge from one survivor to another. The journey had only just begun,